It's pouring in Ketchikan again. Was it really worth getting off the ship?
Hi, Michelle here from Travelling Over 60. Come join me on this adventure.
Well, this is looking sad. We only have Ketchikan left. So we finished in Glacier Bay and we cruised all the way down to Ketchikan. Now I want to prepare you for the weather. It poured in Ketchikan. Let me show you. We're heading towards our last port now, and it's freezing. So it's overcast, it's raining, it's cold, windy. It's only about 5 degrees at the moment, I think. And at least it's our last port that this is happening on. We'll see what happens when we get to port. Let's do a weather check-in. Now it's 8 degrees, a little warmer than it has been, but we had on jeans, really thick woolly socks. We put on our walking shoes because they are waterproof, and we only had half our thermals on. We just had our thermal pants on and not our thermal top on. But on our top, we have a long sleeve t-shirt, a jumper with a hood. Our jackets have hoods. We took our hats, but I tended not to put it on. And we had a poncho that also had a hood. Now, our ponchos clipped together to make it look a bit like a raincoat, and it did keep the top half of us dry. But I wished our ponchos were thicker. I put my fingernails through the poncho, and actually, this was the second poncho I did that. We hoped for the weather to clear up a little bit by the time we got into Ketchikan, but it didn't. First up on our itinerary for today is a town walk with Kareen. Now, because of the weather, I don't have a lot of photos, but you can walk along the dock and there's a monument there to have a look at and some shops around. And you won't be able to miss this eagle. And don't forget to look up because this eagle was just sitting in the rain up on the light post. It's a bit hard to tell it's an eagle, but trust me, it is. And as soon as you walk past the fake eagle, you'll see this place, Alaska Coffee. Apparently, it has the best coffee in town. Now, the streets have really good street signs on them, and I'm not sure how much time they spent naming their streets. Yep, you won't get lost. Okay, looking down now. The ground was really easy to walk on. Concrete, the gutters were just like normal Australian gutters, just a slight step up. But it was pouring. I don't know if you can hear that rain. And if you haven't already seen a totem pole, there's one here in Ketchikan. But let me show you. I'm going to the end of the street and looking back to where the ship is. That's a princess ship, but ours is beside it. Parks there on the right, pedestrian crossing, a dip in the gutter there, and then this is still really easy walking. Now, I mentioned there's a totem pole here in Ketchikan, and if you're interested, there's even a sign to tell you all about it. But I'm not going to tell you because that can be part of your adventure. Now, if you've done your research, there's a good chance you're going to want to see Creek Street. Well, you possibly will walk up Totem Way past the totem pole on your way to Creek Street. And my suggestion is you stop and smell the roses in the park. Oh, wait, they're not roses, but stop in the park anyway. There's some really interesting things to see. Now, you may not have anything booked for Ketchikan, but this little park is walking distance of where the dock is, and it has some really interesting seats. Take a close look and see what the back of it looks like. And if the weather would have been nicer, we would have bought something from the shops and just sat here in the park. with all the petals. Oh, and we managed time for a selfie as well. Okay, we've spent enough time in the park. We're moving on with our walking tour. Now, I mentioned Creek Street before, and we're going to take our tour there. But our tour guide, Corrine, took us in through the back way. And just to give you a bit of a heads up, we had to walk up a hill. No, not up this hill, but there's a story behind this. That'll have to be on your adventure. And my suggestion is that you check with your guide whether you'll be going up any hills. But we continued on over to the fish ladder. Now, as you can see here, the ground is really walkable. It was pouring with rain, but we weren't going to let that spoil our day. And actually, it made for good videoing of the water rushing down here while we listened to the stories of the salmon.
Salmon spawning at this point, it's too early for the salmon. But if you do want to go exploring the neighborhood, you think that street there, we'll actually take you, they'll sometimes hang out in these quiet bits because the rapids come through the middle, and so they'll just hang out right at the edge by the rocks trying to get their breath back before they head up.
Now, we were lucky we had Corrine, who's our APT representative, and she told us lots of stories. But if you don't have a guide, you can still come and walk along this trail. Now, we finally made it up to where the buildings are, and you can see it's still on like planks on a boardwalk. And now we get to see all the interesting buildings and so many stories with every building.
So once everybody gets here, I'll tell you a couple more stories now.
Little shops, flat ground. It's like boardwalk all the way down, like that. But you can walk down and there's a whole lot of shops. It's got t-shirts and bits and pieces.
Now, this is just a little bit of a look at the shops, but we had to get back for our tour that we're doing this afternoon. So we made our way down the boardwalk right up to the end here, and that's where the entrance is from the other direction. Now, if you are coming from the other direction, you won't miss Creek Street. This is the great big sign out the front. You just walk under the sign and then down along the boardwalk. Now, my husband sees this green building. He's really interested, so we're going to stop there before we go back for our tour. Oh, wait. Look where he wants to stop. Now, don't forget to stop at Dolly's house. It's very famous. You might like to research it before you go. Now, the pictures in the window are for everybody to see, but if you want to go inside, you have to pay $10 for the tour. Oh, and don't forget to tip the workers. Enough of that. It's time for us to head over to our excursion. Now, there's a few different tours you can do in Ketchikan, but we really like to see and hear about the different cultures in the different places where we travel. So we've signed up to go over to the Saxman's Native Village Dance Performance and Totem Park. Come and have a look. I'd like to tell you the rain had stopped, but no, it hadn't. You can probably hear it on my poncho. But this is just giving you a look at the ground. Now, it was stones, it was a little bit slippery, but it wasn't long before we got inside the building to watch the dance performance. Now, we came in through this door here on the right. Whew, it's so nice to be out of the rain. And they gave us a little bit of a talk. Now, when you come in and you're choosing where to sit, you can see at the front there's those steps that you have to step down. But if you can't make those steps, as you see here, there is seats along each wall where you'll just be on that top level. And if you're on this lower level, watch your step, because as you can see there's a dip off to where the wood is. But otherwise you can see it's all flat. It's just like a boardwalk. and it's easy to get down if you can do those steps. And I think they did the seating really well because no matter where you were seated, you could still see the performers. So finally, it was time for their little performance. So the performers came out onto the stage and they told us all about the markings on the backs of their robes. Now, of course, they all mean something and they have their songs and their chants that they have as well. So in between each dance, they explained the different things to us. But I can't tell you that because that's for your adventure. Okay, the performance is over now, and we've got to head out into the weather again. Yep, it's still raining, but we want to go out and see the totem park. Now, there isn't just the everyday totem pole out here. There was some really unusual totem poles, and of course, there was a story behind them all. So we stood out in that rain and we heard all those stories. Really, they were quite interesting. I just wish the rain would have stopped. But we did all the totem poles and then it was time for us to move on to the next part, which was where we saw a totem pole being carved. We even got to meet one of the old carvers. Are they called carvers? And I'm not sure he'd be happy about me calling him old. Well, our excursion has come to an end now, and we're ready to get out of this miserable weather. We are wet and cold. We make our way back to the ship and we get a nice warm meal. And I really love a hot chocolate. Now, I hope you got some great information from this video and it was worth me getting wet. Let me know in the comments. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. But I haven't mentioned, have you subscribed to my channel? If you have, thank you. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't, go across, subscribe to my channel and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Now we're nearly to the end of our Alaskan trip. Actually, our Canada and Alaska trip. It's getting closer to us going home. But you don't want to miss the next video because it's about what we did in Vancouver. We had to fill in some time before we flew home. Now, I still haven't told you where my next adventure is going to be, so make sure you keep tuning in until I give you that big announcement of where we're going. Maybe you could even have a guess. Where do you think my next trip is? Do you think you know where I'm going? Let me know. And thanks for your support. I really appreciate it.